My understanding is under Rule 32A 3E, it's permissible for a party to submit the deposition transcript of a witness when there are exceptional circumstances. And in this instance, with Mr. Wilson, he obviously testified in a manner that was very favorable to Mr. Preston during his deposition. And today, presumably because he has a plea bargain, which he's scared of running afoul of, we could ask him no meaningful questions because he invoked the Fifth Amendment. So as a consequence, I'd like to move under Rule 32A3E and ask the court for leave such that I can designate those parts of Mr. Wilson's deposition that I feel are material and that the court should consider. And also because, I feel like he has provided testimony about these sham contracts in this case. And as the county has pointed out, this is a very public trial, and the public deserves to hear what his testimony is, and they should get to hear and compare and contrast it to what his daughter, Allison Sham's testimony is. So we make that motion.
I would say, first of all, I think this is a perfect opportunity, issue that should be brief, perhaps very briefly. That we can look at it tonight and use our version of events.
I'll reserve a decision until the morning, and the time is going to question. So if you'd like to present me with some authority, I'll take a look at it.
Thank you, Your Honor. And on the Michael Thompson videotape, Your Honor, just so you can follow along with the four passages that we're objecting to. Here's a highlighted version, and for the court reporter there's a version as well, and the original one.
What is being objected to? We read on that, or?
Yeah, there are only four provisions, sections, and we'll direct your attention to them, Your Honor.
All right.
These are objections, our objections, Your Honor, to designations that they would like included in what is read. The first one starts on page 129.
49?
I'm sorry, 129.
29, okay. Yes, sir, I'm there.
And if you see, we've put little pen notations of the objected to section. It starts at line 10 and carries over to page 133.
I do see that, yes.
And our objection, Your Honor, is really a hearsay objection and relevance. This appears to be a passage that relates to harassment of Mr. Thompson by various members of the community, unnamed, and that's our objection. Relevance and hearsay.
Yes,
Several things here. Number one, we've heard testimony already about these issues. They're in the record, they're confirmed. This is just what Mr. Thompson had to say about it. Now, Mr. Thompson is, Mr. Thompson is of particular significance in this case, because in this case, there was a specific allegation about Mr. Thompson's credibility. And in this case, Mr. Thompson is explaining in this passage, and in several passages that we're going to see also that they're objecting to, he's explaining why he was doing what he was doing, and it's an issue of an effect on the listener. This harassment, according to Mr. Thompson, was part of the reason why, when he was questioned back in June of 2008 about his intentions of where he was going to go work, Mr. Thompson says, look, part of the reason why I didn't respond and say, yeah, I'm going to do that, was because people were calling me, people are sending me letters, and I'm actually a little bit, I don't say scared, but he had apprehension, certainly. And he, at this point, was saying, look, I don't want to say I'm doing anything in the public record at this point, because the only thing that happens is it fuels this harassment. And so these passages specifically aren't related to the truth of the matter asserted, per se. What they're trying to do is explain, listen, I acted in a certain way, and here's why. I was experiencing a pattern of systematic harassment. I was actually afraid because of that, and here's the background of that, and this is why I did what I did. And that's the purpose why these passages are relevant, why they're not hearsay, and why they should be played along with the rest of the video.
Your Honor, I only addressed the first of the 4 passages. I'm happy to address them all like Mr. Davis just did. The other ones are even worse, Your Honor. It calls for speculation, or it is speculation. If you look at the passage that starts on page 134, this is one of the worst ones.
I'm looking at that.
Right, what they're trying to do, Your Honor, is they say with a question, do you believe there's a correlation between the voters who support Ms. Wilson and the harassing behaviors you talked about? And he says yes. And then he's asked to explain, and he just says, it's my understanding that, and he says a variety of things that have no connection to Ms. Wilson, and says that's what my understanding is. He's purely speculating. They're trying to connect dots of anonymous threatening letters that he might have received to sitting council members when there's no proof that any such harassment was directed by or had anything to do with Ms. Wilson or Mr. Waldrop. And that's why these particular passages are problematic. The next one, if you looked at page 146.
Mr. Thompson's answer wasn't yes. Mr. Thompson's answer was yes, yes, yes. There was a correlation. Mr. Thompson went on to explain why he thought that. Now, here's the thing, Your Honor. What we're talking about in this case, in no small part, was the factual backdrop of why the severance agreement vote occurred on November 18th of 2008. What was the political climate? What were the facts upon which those votes were cast? And regardless of whether Mr. Thompson's belief about these issues was correct, that's what he thought. That's what he thought when he was deposed. And that's the backdrop upon which he is casting his marble into the pig. And so it's relevant for that purpose. Now, time and time again, issues have come up about evidence in this case. And the county has said, hey, it goes to weight. Well, if Your Honor hears it, and you say, hey, that's a little bit thin, then it goes to weight. But it's certainly material, and it's certainly relevant, and it should be considered, and the court can assign to it whatever worth it deems proper.
In looking at the testimony, counsel, he starts off by saying, it's my understanding that. And then he says, well, I mean, it's not my understanding. Mr. Davis, talk about his understanding, about his understanding.
Well, the very next sentence is, he says, I know.
Yes.
The next
At the
sentence.
very bottom of the passage, he says, that's what I understand is going on. So he talks about what his understanding is. So a little confused because it starts off saying it's my understanding, then he says, well, it's not my understanding. Then he says, I know, and then at the end he says, that's what I understand is going on.
Your Honor, if you knew the fellow, you'd understand exactly the passage.
Well, I've never met him.
It's not an issue of what he didn't know or didn't. It's just that's how he talks, that's how he thinks. He's clearly supporting his testimony in this passage with facts that he believes he knows.
All right, but let me back up. The first one, I've looked it over, and what I'm going to do on that is, as to those things in which he was talking about what Mr. Preston told him that happened to him, Mr. Preston's a party in the case. He's got a right to put it like that. As to the other individuals, other than what happened to him personally, I will exclude that as hearsay. Okay? So, and I think we can, he's talking about what happened to Miss Floyd. She's not a party. What he talked about happened to him and what he said Mr. Preston told him happened to him, I'll accept those two. As to the second passage on 134, I do find that he is stating what his understanding was. It may or may not be correct, but I think it's being offered to show a state of mind on his part. I would accept it or allow it in for that purpose and give it the weight I think it deserves. Now there's some others. The next one I think I see is 145.
That's right, Your Honor. It starts at the very bottom of 145, and the key passage to us is at the very last bit of it, which is 146, line 11.
Yes.
He says, I'm going to have to assume that it was. So he confirms that he's operating purely on assumption or speculation.
Let me briefly look over that.
You know what, Your Honor, I don't know how feasible it is to doctor this up like this in light of the fact that it's a video, so we may have to consult with our expertise. But I kind of concede his point as to page 146, lines 7 through 11. I think the stuff above
I'm
that.
actually going to start at line 4. That's the question in line 7. One before that. He said he asked me if the same people that caused you to be scared. Yes, I believe they were. Speculating.
Okay, that's.
So I was through line 4 through 11 on page 146.
And the last one, Your Honor, just on page 160, over to 161.
Yes, right there.
I think this is similar in nature. It's the same type of discussion about harassing. This time it's talking about some kind of harassment type statement on the radio. Things that might have been said on the radio.
Let me take a look at it.
Your Honor, my response with this is that testimony corresponds back to prior testimony in the transcript. All he's doing there is explaining, if you see how the passage goes, it says basically, earlier you testified about this, and he goes on to explain.
Well, he testifies as if he heard these things said.
Your Honor, we know as a fact, it's not a piece of evidence in the record, but for example, we know, well, this isn't a record, Defense Exhibit 136, for example, is the letter to the sheriff that's referencing the same radio component. But we also have another document that would reflect that he had an actual transcript of the show. I mean, he knew firsthand what was the content of what he's complaining about in this passage.
Yes, Mr. Justice.
Sir, the part we would direct your attention to is 141 or 161 line 3. Do you recall anyone ever saying that they were willing to go to jail or to take any of you out? I remember that being said, but I don't remember to who or who said it. But they were pretty vicious. What's that got to do with anything? He hasn't identified a statement made to him or from whom.
Your Honor, in Defense Exhibit 136, that same exact statement, it's already in evidence.
I'm sorry, what now?
In Defense Exhibit 136, that exact statement is already in evidence.
Is that correct, Mr. Justice? Take a look at it.
I'll see, Your Honor.
Let me have
It was the bit.
It's been admitted.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not, Your Honor, but I know we objected to it. You may have ruled on that already.
Your Honor,
That was objected to?
yes, Your Honor, remember this was the letter that came in, may I approach?
Yeah, man.
This was the letter that came in during the cross-examination of Councilman Bill McAbee.
The one that's led investigation.
Yes, sir.
I recall.
They discussed it.
Yeah, in fact, Your Honor, my notes show that it was not actually offered into evidence. It was discussed with Mr. Matthews, but never offered as an exhibit.
Okay. Your Honor, I move through Defense Exhibit 136 to go into the record. I mean, that was a whole exchange where, well, let's see if you can lay a proper foundation for him. All the contents of the exhibit came in the record, and it was discussed in the record. All of the stuff I thought it was admitted, but I don't, I can see, I don't have a specific recollection. I remember the whole exchange.
The letter is a letter from the county to the sheriff. I can't remember who signed it.
Your Honor, this was,
Yeah, please pass it.
this is a letter for February 7th of 2008. It's from Michael Thompson.
That's from this witness.
That's from this witness. And it's to the sheriff, and if you look down at the carbon copy, it was sent to all the council members, including Bill McAfee, who authenticated it while I was on the stand.
Actually, I think it was Walter Trotter. I misspoke. I think he talked about this with Mr. Walter when you said you were on the council at the time.
Right, and it came up today.
Oh, it came today too, maybe?
I think he examined Mr. Walker about it. He denied remembering.
Gotcha.
But Mr. McAfee.
He said we couldn't remember, I think that's what he said.
And then Mr. McAfee came in today and confirmed, yeah, I remember this, and yeah, all that was happening, and he explained the whole factual circumstances behind it. And I thought at the time it had moved into evidence, but I could be wrong on that.
Well, right now, we are in the plaintiff's case.
Yes, sir.
I want to let you can do that either through a witness or when you start your case. All witnesses try to do it. I'm not going to let you admit it without testimony that's substantiated right now. It's not offered. You know what is on stage. So just recall it later on. You know your chance. Okay.
Well, back to the designation.
Let's get back to the designation. I'm going to exclude 160, line 24 through 14 on line 160, on page 161. That testimony seems to be speculative. He said, asking about whether somebody threatened to kill him. He said, killing, I don't recall. Do you recall anyone saying that they were willing to go to jail to take you out? I remember that being said, but I don't remember who said it. Who said it. That was pretty vicious. That's what I recall. Mr. Chester asked you about ethics letter you wrote down to Mr. Hayden. And I don't know exactly what that has to do with anything. So I'm going to exclude 24 through 14, line 24 on 160 through 14 on 161. The one before that, I'll let him testify to that. Let's see if he said he heard it.
And Your Honor, just for sake of efficiency, what I have done, we have left in all 4 objectionable passages for now. We figure you can resolve that.
I can sort through what I've let in and what I haven't.
That'll save us from having to try to extract them.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, ready to proceed?
Yes, sir.
All right, you may publish the deposition. You can turn the lights down, please.
Michael Thompson.
Where do you currently reside?
70 Ferguson Road, Piedmont.
Who lives there with you?
My wife,
What is her name?
Bonnie,
Anyone else live there with you? And Bonnie?
our cat.
Do you have any college degrees?
Yes.
What are your college degrees?
I have an Associate of Science in Engineering Technology. I have a Bachelor of Science in Organizational Management. And I have a Master's in Business Administration.
Where did you get your associate's degree? From what school?
Richmond Community College.
Is that Richmond, Virginia?
No, it's Richmond County,
Okay.
as in North Carolina.
And where did you get your Bachelor of Science degree?
Tusculum, T-U-S-C-U-L-U-M, College. That's in Greenville with the E, G-R-E-E-N-E-V-I-L-L-E, Tennessee.
Okay. And then where did you get your MBA?
Harrogate, I'm sorry, back up. Lincoln Memorial University. Their main campus is in Harrogate, Tennessee. However, I attended the satellite campus in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Did you go get your MBA directly after you received your bachelor's degree? Or did you work somewhere first?
No, I graduated June, give me a minute, 96, with my bachelor's. That December, I started my master's, and 18 months after that, I graduated with my master's. Okay, that'll be 98, June 98.
Where did you go for employment after you received your master's degree?
I was going to night school. I attended night school and working full-time with Philips Consumer Electronics. That's located in Knoxville, well, I say was located in Knoxville, Tennessee. Worked full-time there while attending night school, earning a bachelor's and a master's degree. That company subsequently closed down and relocated partially to Atlanta, and other departments relocated throughout the country. And then after Philips Consumer Electronics, I came to work for the Robert Bosch Corporation in Anderson, South Carolina.
And what did you do for Bosch?
I worked in the purchasing department as a senior buyer. I managed the active electronic components, but that's what I was hired to do. And then I was soon after reporting in given the packaging commodity also. I had a total of $56 million worth of materials, commodities that I managed.
And about how long did you do that for Bosch? About how many years?
4 years, a few months.
And what caused you to leave Bosch?
There was a reduction in force, and I was given a severance package and that, and then left.
And that was in 2004?
Yes.
After you left Bosch in 2004, where did you go for work?
Self-employed as a real estate agent. I am was, I should say, an independent contractor. And I worked for Century 21 office.